Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith. And if you are spending any ad money or putting any energy into getting leads for your business, you probably bought one of those little magic 8 balls from the dollar store and you asked it where your leads were coming from and how much money they were bringing you because, like everybody else, you found that most analytics tools suck. And by suck, what I mean is if you have more than one analytics tool installed, let's say you have Google Analytics and you have a few other tools that are tracking where people are coming from, how much money they're spending. And then you look in your AdWords dashboard and you look in your Facebook ads dashboard and you compare everything, you'll see they all tell you different stories. It's like you pointed at a house and you said, what color is the house? And one person says, well, it's a red house, obviously. One person says, this is a blue house. And you're looking at it and it's purple. And you're like, well, wait, what? And how could you trust anything? This is a huge problem. And it's even bigger because you know that to get beyond the low six figures, almost everyone who makes that shift to the mid or high six figures does it using ad money. But how can you spend ad money when you don't know what your return on ad spend is? To help us solve this problem, we have Keith from Segmetrics, who's going to help us unravel a bit of the mystery about why all of these analytics platforms disagree and his answer so we can spend ad money and reliably know what we're making back. Keith, welcome to Redbeard Radio.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. As you were doing your intro, really, I just kept cringing the entire time because every single thing you said was like, oh, I hated that. Oh, I hated that. I hate when that happens. Like, it's such a pain. So many years of dealing with this.
I still hate it. I developed a tool once in Google Sheets where I would drag in a data from Google AdWords and I would type that in, and then I would compare from Google Analytics how many page views on a given page.
Yep.
And then also have on a different part of a different spreadsheet, how much money did we spend driving traffic to that page. Then you can also show paid versus organic traffic in Google Sheets, but you can't export Facebook data, at least not at the time, except by manually. So I would email a report to an email address that was a Zapier email address that would grab that Facebook ad data and put that into the sheet. And once you put that all together and you stir it in a pot, what you discover is no one agrees on anything.
Right. None of the
and you should have bought the figure 8 ball.
None of the metrics line up. And before you know it, you've hit that 14 million line row limit in Excel doing your pivot tables.
Oh, I pulled my hair out before then.
That's why we built Segmetrics. My main marketing manager back at the agency, that's literally what he said. He's like, Keith, you have to do something before I pull out the rest of my hair. So
it's a huge problem. I've used, definitely not all, there's an infinite supply of analytics platforms. I've used a significant number. I've been in business since 2012. I've been involved in all kinds of launches. I've spent ad money for all different kinds of places, and understanding what's my return on ad spend? What ought to be a simple question
is the hardest one.
It's really hard when you're trying to build funnels that are going to succeed. Like, is this funnel making me money or is it losing me money? Entrepreneurs want to know the answer to that, oddly enough.
I mean, the real reason why it's so hard is because it does not behoove the ad companies to give you the correct answers.
I don't want to hear that. I thought this was maybe
really
a positive, happy episode.
Keith, well, I do have good solutions for that. So, but really, when you think about it, all of the ad platforms want to sell you more ads. So they want to sell you the absolute best version of whatever you're spending. And this is fine if you only run Facebook ads. If you only run Google ads, if you only run TikTok ads, then it's fine because it doesn't have to tie out to anything. It just has to be that reality. But as soon as you have other systems in the mix, as soon as you have someone going from a Facebook to a Google to a TikTok back to a Google, then everyone's going to say, oh no, it was my ad that made them purchase. Facebook's never going to say, oh no, it was Google ad. They're always going to say, no, it was Facebook's ad that made them purchase. TikTok's going to say it was TikTok. That's the problem. And you're never going to get the right answer from one of the ad platforms because it doesn't help them. If they start saying, oh no, it was Google, no one's going to spend on Facebook anymore. They're all going to spend on Google. So it doesn't behoove them to do that.
Let me tell you how jaded I am. Here's what I trust. In Keep, I'll do a thing where I say, okay, I developed this campaign, Redbeard sales attribution tracking. And I said, okay, if you click an email to, I'm going to apply a tag that says you last clicked an email to. If then you make a purchase from the product in that campaign, I'll run a decision diamond that will say which last email click tag do you have, and then I'll attribute that dollars to that email that you click to that tag, and then I'll pipe that into Google Sheets using plus this. And from that, I can say, okay, email number 1 made you 10% of the revenue over the last 30 days. Email number 2 made 30%, etc. Because I trust that. But anything else I found to be not trustworthy enough to use as more than a casual guess. But the problem is we want to, as soon as we have the data, even if we know it's bad, we want to use it to make decisions because we're idiots. And we forgot what happened last time, which is why I only trust which email did they last click. Okay, yes, perhaps they saw your TikTok video. That's nice. I don't know that. And I don't know when they did that. Therefore, I'm just going to say this email of all the sales that came from these emails, of which I don't know how many that is as compared to other platforms or other channels, I'm going to say probably around a third came from email number 2. I'm willing to say that, but not of how many total, which is total crap. So Segmetrics, how are you solving this gargantuan problem that has affected every one of my clients for decades? No pressure. You have like 5 minutes.
Yeah, no pressure, right? There's 2 ways really that it comes down to. So one is the most basic is that we take into account all of the different ad platforms. We are not an ad platform. And so when someone clicks on the Facebook ad and then comes in from Google and then views TikTok and then comes back to Google again, we're watching all of those points, all of those touch points that people do. And then you can filter and decide, okay, I just want the first thing. Okay, I just want the last thing before they purchased or the last thing before they opted in. So you get to choose based on your own attribution model which one you want to affect. So that's the basis of what we do when we're saying, why are we accurate when these other systems aren't? Is because we're not trying to make any one system look good. We're trying to get actuality, reality. The second thing is that just like you're doing with the tags in Infusionsoft, where someone clicks on the link in the email, you tag them as this was email number 2, and then you put that back in the source through a decision diamond. We're doing the same thing just with web clicks. And so what that lets you do is essentially in our system, you're automatically tracking all those things that would happen and then being able to report on them in the same way you would report on a tag. So essentially on every email, you put in the UTM value, you stick in either the email address, or if you're using Keep, you put in the contact ID into that link, right? Because you can do that with a merge field. When they click that link, you notice user number 532, which is bob@example.com, clicked on this link, and then they purchased 10 minutes later. And so then we can say, what was the last email that people clicked before they purchased? Here it is. And that's how we connect it all together.
Fun question for all the people in the audience here. What does UTM stand for? Now, you better know because you're you.
Yes.
But fun story is back in 2006, I got out of college and went to work for, at the time, one of the 11 Google Analytics authorized consultants in the world. And I got to be around the super smart people that were making all that work. And that was just when we were all moving over to GA.js and moving away from urchin.js, back in the dark ages. So folks, in case this shows up on Trivial Pursuit, Google bought a company called Urchin, and Urchin had the Urchin tracking module, which is how so much internet traffic is tracked. And even though that happened in 2005, because the internet is the way it is, we all still say UTM.
Still use UTM.
Even though the company...
They've rewritten history a little bit, and now they say it's what universal tracking metric is what it is.
No.
But yeah, it's from that's what
really?
I believe that is the official.
Google would lie to me.
I know.
Keith.
Can you believe it?
No, I can now.
But yeah, Urchin. That was
universal.
So before Google. Before Google came out, the first website I ever built with tracking was Urchin. And I researched what are all the tracking solutions, and Urchin was the best one. And so we bought an Urchin account. I think you had to buy an Urchin account. I can't even remember. But we installed that urchin.js. Yeah.
Back in the day.
Crazy.
Good times.
I think we've appropriately aged ourselves.
Established our credibility, you mean. This beard didn't grow itself. I've earned the white in my beard. So what is happening once people get Segmetrics set up and they throw away their Magic 8 Ball from the dollar store, or they give it to their 5-year-old cousin, And then what actually happens? What are people able to do, which right now it is so far off in fantasy land, they don't even think about it unless they start crying. What are people able to do?
That is the problem, which is that here's the funny thing, is that people optimize and people build systems around what they can measure. And so up until now, we haven't been able to measure anything. So the things that we measure are really crap, right? It's like, how many people opted in from this ad? It's like, who cares? How many people purchased from that ad? That's what I want to know. So everyone's so conditioned to these very simple metrics that are all that we could calculate up until now, that once they get into Segmetrics, the hurdle is, because with Segmetrics, the benefit is that you can answer any marketing question you have. I want to know how many people clicked a Facebook ad, then they clicked a Google ad, then they clicked another Facebook ad, and their dog's name is Bob. And how much are those people worth versus the people whose cat name is Sally? Right? So I can ask super just detailed questions. How long does it take from the first click to someone purchasing? How long does it take for someone to reach $100 in value on my list on average so that I can gauge my ad spend correctly? These are all the super cool questions you can answer. The hurdle that every single person has when they come into Segmetrics is there's so much that you can ask, and and no one's been trained to ask those good questions. What is the question you want to know? What's the answer you want to know? Ask a good question.
I'll tell you what I want to know is that my client, Dr. Philip Ovadia, he's a heart surgeon, and he has a Introduction to Fasting course. So this course, we have hosted on Customer Hub, sold on a spiffy landing page, Keep as a CRM. We're promoting it through Twitter right now, though soonish we're going to start promoting it also through the podcast, and then also probably on Instagram and some other places. And we are promoting in a few different places on Twitter. Like right now, it's only an auto plug, but eventually it'll also be some threads around it, etc. I want to know, and I know all the current buyers because I only am selling one place. I know all the sales are currently coming from Twitter. No question there. What I want to know is if someone buys it after I start promoting it through a podcast ad or through organic mention on the podcast, does that actually drive sales? Or are people still clicking a link in Twitter? Or are people who have listened or are subscribed to the podcast, when they then go to Twitter to click a link, are they more likely to have a higher conversion rate? Like, I would love to see podcast visitors on the sales page. Podcast visitors convert at 20%. Non-podcast subscribers convert at 10%. I can actually use that to make decisions instead of telling my client, and my gut tells me it's like this. My gut tells me don't do this yet. I feel like I smell the money all the time. I smell the money over there, which is as good as you can get. And my nose is pretty good. So there we go. But if I could tell my client, well, actually, based on this 10% conversion rate increase for the $17 product with a lifetime value of X over here, of whom X% convert to being our long-term people, our big, they buy his concierge heart medicine thing. If I had numbers behind that, I could actually say, I recommend you spend this amount of ad money. I did a Google Sheets thing a while ago that actually predicted based on ROAS how much ad spend you should spend based on your desired ROAS. And it looked at what your Google AdWords said it did in the last time period, and what your sales were for a given product if you're having a funnel with only a single input, only a single channel going into it. And then it said, okay, well, if you want your ROAS to be this, you spend this much, it would tell you, spend this much. But it was still like, is that reliable? Maybe. Why don't you do it? And then why don't you do it and then look backwards and say, was it reliable or not?
Right. And this is one of the things, and this is exactly what we do, which is we're able to pull those different segments and those different cohorts all from different touch points that people have been making during that and then combine them. It's like, okay, here's our podcast subscriber number and our podcast subscriber conversion rate. Here's how much they spend. Here's the dollar value. Okay, let's now combine that with people who click from Twitter. What does Twitter do on its own? And then what is the combination of the podcast plus Twitter? How does that affect? What percentage? What's the dollar value, that lead value? How much does that go up or down? Did that affect it in a good or a bad way? And those are the things we do. It's like, okay, what are each of the touch points that you want to look at? And how do you want to combine them to show that this is either more valuable or less valuable than what we were doing before?
How are you tracking podcast downloads?
Podcast downloads are ungodly difficult to do.
I know. I sort of gave that example earlier as a gotcha. It's like, if you claim you can do this, I'm like, okay, you're a magic 8-ball. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, podcast downloads are pretty much impossible to do, but there are ways around it. One of the things that we want to talk about is like, what are the challenges in ads right now? And one of those challenges in ads is the fact that Facebook now, when you click an ad, it keeps you in a sandboxed browser that erases all the cookies when you leave. So that beyond the point, podcast downloads are kind of the same. And you have to come up with marketing solutions that solve those problems. So for podcasts and stuff, it's really links and descriptions. It is things that you can get a click on, that you can get to a website that has that tracking, that then identifies the device. And once you identify that device through a click or through a special link that you've set up or an email address or something, then you can really start to measure that a lot better.
One thing I do is you can subscribe to my podcast, and then you get the weekly email that's powered by Feedbolt that looks at a contact list and Keep, and it says, here's our subscribers, we're going to send this out. And then those all have links. It links to the full description of the most recent episode and just the titles of the last 5 or 10 episodes. So in theory, because we have a link that I can know, oh, well, you listened to Bob's podcast before you purchased my mastermind. Good to know.
Exactly. And this is one of the things that, people always want that silver bullet of, oh, I just hooked up Segmetrics and now everything works. You still have to use your marketing brain. Right.
Whoa there. No. I've given you money. To be just a marketer. Make the problem. Just tell me what to do, man. I don't want to think.
I always feel marketing is a combination of science and art. Segmetrics really provides the science side. We can tell you to the dollar, to the penny, what is going to perform well. You still have to decide what you're going to do with that data. Here's a great example. So you have a webinar and you have a bunch of designers come on and you have a bunch of copywriters come on. The copywriters convert at 80%, the designers convert at 20%. You know this because you're able to see the tags, you're able to see all the blah, blah, blah. The marketing decision now is, do we get rid of those underperforming people, or do we create a new webinar that is targeting that underperforming audience, right? So these are the marketing decisions you need to make based on solid data that you have coming in from Segmetrics.
I love it. For people who are hearing this and they're thinking, this sounds interesting, where do they go to start a free trial and throw away that magic 8-ball?
You can see us at segmetrics.io, and you can start your 14-day free trial and get started from there.
And Keith, for people who like your style, where can they follow you on social?
I am on the worst. I can't name anything. If you just look for Keith Perhac, I'm the only one on the internet. You'll find me. But my Twitter handle is HadiSenbon79, which, like I said, worst naming on the planet.
What? You gotta. I'm okay. What? How do you what? I'm typing this in.
Yeah. So it's HARISENBON 79. So
no, don't tell me. Okay, Harry has got to be from Harry Seldon, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Foundation. Senbon 79. Let's see. The SE I'm going to guess is for Seldon, which only leaves you an NBON. And you were born in I'm lost, folks. I got nothing. I did my best.
After college, I moved to Japan, and my entire adult life was spent in Japan. And that's when Twitter came out, and that's when I made my first Twitter handle.
That's fantastic. You can change it, right? It is 2022.
But it's been 10 plus years, 12 years, God knows how long. I've had that handle for a while.
It's grown on you?
It's grown on me. I use it on all my stuff. It means pufferfish. And it is also, when you say...
so I was really wrong. I wasn't just a little really wrong. I was like completely...
People call me Mr. Nbone all the time. They think my name is Harris. And so I know it's a spam mail when I get a DM that says, Mr. Nbone, how are you today? I'm like, nope.
Anti-spam trap. That's fantastic. What a horrible name.
It's... Naming things, I'm a developer by trade, and naming things is the absolute hardest thing anyone will ever do, and especially I think for developers.
My name is Redbeard Brian because I have red beard, and my name is Brian. And my company is Redbeard Consulting, and let's see, my Twitter account is Redbeard Brian, and my mastermind is called the Redbeard Accelerator.
See, solid branding. That's where I fall down.
My profile pic is me with a beard that's red. Keith, thank you so much. I'm excited about trying out Segmetrics. That's SEGMETRICS.io, folks, to go ahead and start your free trial. Take
Brian,
care, Keith.
Thank you so much.